Born in 1891 to a middle-class family, ERWIN Rommel was an academically average student who entered the military with a singular defining trait, a natural instinct for leadership. Shortly after he earned his commission, World War I broke out. During his deployment, the German army began experimenting with a new, highly mobile combat doctrine known as Stoßtrupp, or stormtrooper tactics. The mechanics of the Stoßtrupp tactic relied on small, flexible units moving with extreme speed. Instead of grinding against entrenched positions, these units were trained to bypass the front lines entirely and sprint deep into enemy territory to sever supply chains. Executing this required daring commanders who could make split-second decisions without waiting for orders from above. Rommel thrived in this environment. His foundational military DNA was permanently set in these early years. He learned to value aggressive speed, relied on individual initiative, and ignored static battle lines. After the war, the Treaty of Versailles gutted the German military, slashing the officer corps from 40,000 down to a strict limit of just 4,000. Rommel managed to survive the deep cuts and remain in uniform purely on the strength of his combat medals. Assigned to work as an instructor, he eventually published his tactical memoirs into a book titled Infantry Attacks. It unexpectedly became a standard military textbook, and it caught the attention of Adolf Hitler. That attention translated directly into proximity to power. Rommel was appointed to command Hitler's personal headquarters and security detail, securing a level of political patronage that few other officers possessed. This relationship created a paradox in 1940. As Germany prepared to invade France, Hitler personally intervened to give Rommel command of the 7th Panzer Division. Rommel was an infantryman. He had zero experience commanding large-scale armored units. Rommel reached the heights of armored command not through the traditional military pipeline, but through the direct intervention of the head of state. During the May 1940 invasion of France, Rommel compensated for his lack of armored experience by treating his modern tanks like his old WWI infantry infiltration units. This diagram illustrates the core German combat doctrine of Auftragstaktik, or mission command. Rather than waiting for step-by-step instructions from a rigid top-down hierarchy, high command sets a simple objective, and field commanders are given total freedom to decide exactly how to execute it. Rommel exploited this freedom to the absolute limit. He ignored his corps commander's direct orders, crossed the Meuse River early using assault boats, and deliberately outran his own radio communications so he couldn't be called back. His relentless speed shattered the French defensive lines and yielded a massive haul of captures. Back at headquarters, his own high command panicked when he vanished from their maps, earning his unit the nickname the Ghost Division. While his results in France were undeniable, Rommel's method, ignoring the chain of command and disappearing from the map, left his own superiors in a state of high-level panic. Moving to North Africa in early 1941, Rommel was sent on a limited defensive mission to support failing Italian forces. Instead, he immediately ignored his directives and launched a massive offensive. Here, a leadership flaw emerged. While he demanded absolute independence from his own superiors, he ruthlessly micromanaged his subordinates. Riding directly in the lead tank, he interfered with low-level decisions, suffocating his officers and physically exhausting his men. Looking at this map of the North African coast, you can see the rapid blitzkrieg maneuvers that earned him the title, the Desert Fox. He pushed his forces aggressively east, capturing the heavily fortified city of Tobruk and driving toward Egypt. As the line stretches thin across the map, the logistical reality catches up. His tanks were now operating over 1,000 miles from their primary port in Tripoli, outrunning the trucks meant to carry their fuel and ammunition. This lack of fuel and adequate air cover forced a collapse at the battles of El Alamein. Deprived of essential supplies, his army suffered a crushing defeat and had to execute a long, punishing retreat back to Tunis. Tactical brilliance couldn't prevent a theater-wide collapse once the scale of the war outpaced Rommel's local supply lines. By 1944, the commander of mobile offensive warfare found himself tasked with the opposite mission, building the static defensive fortifications of the Atlantic Wall in France to repel the impending Allied invasion. He was immediately bogged down by a fractured command structure. Hitler actively utilized a divide-and-rule policy, intentionally fueling disagreements between commanders like Rommel and his superior, Gerd von Rundstedt, to keep them dependent on the capital for decisions. This cross-section of the Normandy coast highlights their dispute. Rommel wanted the heavy panzer divisions parked directly on the beaches to strike the moment the Allies landed. Von Rundstedt argued they should be held as a reserve force deep inland. Hitler mandated a compromise. He placed the tanks in the middle and locked them down, requiring his personal permission before they could be moved, rendering both defensive strategies useless. The commander who had built his career on speed was now legally barred from moving his own tanks without a direct order from the capital. When the Allies landed on June 6th, the fracture of German command was unable to launch a coordinated counterattack, losing crucial hours waiting for a phone call from Berlin that came too late. A month later, Rommel was severely injured when an Allied aircraft strafed his car. He was removed from the front lines as the German defense across France collapsed. 3 days after his injury, a group of German officers detonated a bomb inside Hitler's headquarters. Amidst the paranoia of the July 20th assassination plot, Rommel's name was implicated by the High Command. Fearing that his family would be targeted by the regime, the field marshal was forced to consume a lethal dose of cyanide, ending his own life in October 1944. ERWIN Rommel was a tactician whose career flourished in the chaos of fast-paced warfare. His rise, his eventual tactical paralysis, and his forced death were all results of the patronage-driven system that initially built his legend.